In this video, I will show you how with Centrify infrastructure services, you can discover, manage, and safely rotate passwords for Windows services. It's quite important for us to understand that as part of the best practices for Microsoft Enhanced Security Administrative Environment, or basically to have a good security posture, you need to make sure that you account for all the Windows services that are running with identities in your environment. Make sure that these services are running with the least privilege that they need. And for that, you need to also work with your application developers to make sure that, you know, a service doesn't need like domain admins to run, right, or local administrator. You need to make sure that they dial it down to what's minimal. And then also how you can continuously uh, rotate the password for services in maintaining high availability. And let's start with where do you start? Let's just say you're in charge of a new Windows environment. The first thing is how many servers do you have out there that may be running with credentials, right? For that we have discovery, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick discovery. So with Centrify, you can discover um, Active Directory join the Unix, Linux, and Windows systems, but you can also in Windows systems discover the services that are running with credentials here. So I'm going to just do a quick discovery here, and I'm going to basically specify an account that already exists in privileged service. I think it's my God account. Um, and basically what I mean here is an account that has privileges to go out and discover in the environment. So the next thing here is I'm going to pick what domains and OUs. I'm only interested in one OU called servers, and that OU has this very same machine here. So what I want to do is if I show you in ADOC, right, let's just go ahead and take a look at ADOC, right? And is I'm interested in discovering this machine right here. So I'm keeping everything to servers. So let's go ahead and do some filtering. I'm only interested in Windows computers. I want to override previously discovered systems. And let's see, it's going to be servers here. And in terms of filtering, I'm interested in discovering services, scheduled tasks, and IBS application pools. So this is going to discover all instances of those types of services that have identities associated with it. So I'm going to go ahead and run it, right? And let's just show you the service that I want to discover, right? So ultimately, the service that I'm going to use in this demo is the Centrify Zone Provisioning Agent. A lot of Centrify customers know what this does. Is basically automates the Unix identity provisioning for your AD users. And notice that it's running with this account, Centrify-CPA, right? Um, I also have, for example, I have IIS application pools as well. So if I look at it, I have a couple of application pools that I've created for previous demos. So if I go into here, notice that I have all this stuff here. So if I look in, how I have different accounts being used here as well. So my expectation is that when this discovery runs, ultimately that I'm going to be able to see all the services that are in this machine. So here, notice that I have nothing. So the discovery job already ended, right? So if I go and refresh here my entry, I should have some services that were discovered in this member machine, right? So some of the ones that I showed you, like the IIS application pools, right, and some other stuff. Okay, so now I know the services that are running, at least in this machine, with identities, right? So these are all the identities here. But what's the next step? So the next step is, of course, this is assuming that you already, you can actually go now and find out, hey, do we need to make sure that these accounts are running with very little, very minimum rights? Once I know that, I can take a service under management, right? And it's very simple. All I need to do is, check the service that I'm interested in managing, right? I can basically say enable management for this service, and we need two things. We need an administrative account, right? And I want to use the same one that I was using before, my dot account, and I need a multiplex account. So a multiplex account is basically a logical account that combines two AD accounts because we want to be able to make sure that replication doesn't get in the way. Because if you want to change the password, right, change the password with a single account, and you want to start the service. If replication hasn't happened, you may not be able to start the service. So here I'm going to set that restart the service when it's rotated. Notice that I can set up a maintenance window. I can probably say, hey, every Saturday from like, I don't know, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. when the password needs to be swapped, and then I can just basically go ahead and say save. Right at this point, I have the ability to push password management. In this case, infrastructure service is going to go out to that system. It's going to change the account to what's in my multiplex account, and later we're gonna trigger a password change. So let's go ahead and do that. So it's saying, hey, you want to push password management? Now it's telling me that it's outside the maintenance window. I can say yes, right? So before I go into that, let me show you real quickly what my multiplex account is made of. So if my MUX account is made of two accounts, OP account 1 and OP account 2. If I go back to services, notice right here, because I have not refreshed, notice that it's still saying Centrify CPA. If I go and refresh here, notice that this is going to change. So basically the password management push actually worked, right? So now we are dealing with, account number 2 over here, right? So um, what happens when the password needs to change, right? So this is defined by policy. So typically, when you're dealing with Centrify, you can define a policy, and the policy basically it's set like this. You can say, my periodic password rotation is every 90 days. So let's pretend for a second that we hit the 90th day, right? And the account was automatically changed, both of them. But the password for the service account is going to be reflected once we restart the service. So what we can do is this. Let's go ahead and force our 90-day interval. So I can go to my accounts, and just to make sure that we're being really clever here. So let me just go here, domain accounts. The account in use right now is uh, account 2, right? So if I want to rotate the password for account 2, the message I should get is that the account is currently being used by some services, which is expected. But the other account standing by is account 1. We're going to pretend it's day 90, right? And we're going to rotate this password, right? So we're going to go ahead and rotate the password. Notice that the password was rotated because this account is not currently in use, right? Um, but now let's just pretend also it's that Saturday at 9 a.m. It's time to swap accounts, right? So what you could do is this will happen automatically, but I'm triggering this manually. I can just basically say, let's go ahead and do a push password management. So what this is supposed to do, notice I'm getting the same warning here that I'm doing this outside the maintenance window. uh, what we're getting here is that, hey, we're going to push password management, and the system is going to notice, hey, this account password has been recently changed. Perhaps the administrator wants to swap it. So I'm going to go ahead and go back here. Notice that we still, because we have not refreshed, it says account number 2. And I can go ahead and reload this, and what you will see is that the account has changed to number 1. Consequently, as well, if I go and look at the event viewer, right, I can go into the system log, and I should be able to see that those events where the service was actually restarted, right? Um, so everything, in this case has actually worked, other than that ring that actually spoiled my video, but I'm going to leave it like that. And ultimately, what is the bottom line here? First and foremost, you need to account for your services. With Centrify, you can discover them. You also need to challenge your application developers to make sure that you can use the least privilege principle when setting up service accounts. Then you need to be able to set up a mechanism to rotate those passwords and swap those accounts and respect maintenance windows. And we can do all that with Centrify software. So I'm hoping that this helps. And this is very quick video, not much editing. And again, reach out to us on the website, and we'll be happy to help.